Doug Doherty with Hamilton Flourishing, and so glad you've joined us today. I am so excited. We've got a good friend of mine, TJ Johnson, who is the founder and the director of the Wake Up Youth Foundation. He's been consulting in Chattanooga since 2012 on what to do about gang violence, working through what used to be called the Front Porch Alliance. Al Chapman, who many people will recognize, brought TJ to Chattanooga. TJ is, when he was in Chattanooga, has worked with children, schools, city leaders, the mayor, chiefs, police, sheriff, just faith-based organizations, nonprofits, all kinds of people. And when I want to know something about gang violence and what's going on, I call up TJ because he knows. He's a man that was raised in such a way that he was in a gang and then got in a lot of trouble. The was delivered from that and started back in about 2002. Work with the Memphis Police Department. They were having a problem with gangs over there. And so, TJ, welcome. We're glad you're here.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for having me. And to your listening audience, thank you.
Well, we are so excited. And TJ, it's like Chattanooga, it's just become so commonplace that it just rolls off people's backs, but except maybe the families involved. But every weekend and during the week, it's like there's two shootings a week, and sometimes there's multiple victims. Sometimes, usually it's guys in their late 20s, but sometimes they've shot children. Earlier this year, they shot three children, 6, 8, and 9 years old, and they said the police said it was deliberate. It was targeted. It wasn't random. I mean, it's totally out of hand. And Chattanooga has one of the highest violence rates per thousand in the country, and nobody talks, and nobody wants to talk about it because it's bad for business. Um, but people will always wonder why more can't be done, or what can be done, or what should be done, and it doesn't seem to me that it's merely a policing problem. The policemen can't get there in time to stop a random shooting. I mean, that's crazy. So, just really two big questions. What's the cause of all this young men, mostly young men, shooting each other? And two, what are some of the solutions you have recommended all around the country?
Well, number one, Mr. Doug, number one is poverty. Um, it's the framework of poverty, what I've been trying to explain to the American people, at least for the last 14 years. And at some point, we want to start dealing with poverty. There's so much poverty in the inner city. Doesn't matter what city you're in. The poverty rate is so high. A lot of these kids are in school, even in elementary schools, are beginning to not only be involved in gangs, but to take place in gang activity. And that rolls on to teenagers, which rolls onto what you're seeing now in Chattanooga with the shootings every week and that type of thing. Number two is what I call DNA. And I want your listening audience to hear these initials, DNA, dad not around. So when dad is not around in the inner city, the majority of the time, you're going to be raised by that local, what we call OG, which stands for original gangster, or that person in the neighborhood who the younger guys look up to, who has the nice cars and who's living pretty much well. And this is how they begin to get their income, because they want to be part of that organization. Not all the time just to be part of it, but more of a survival mode. And this is what I've been trying to tell the people around the country for over a decade. And this is what we're dealing with.
Hmm.
So until we
poverty,
go ahead.
DNA, anything else? Poverty and DNA. What else? Anything?
Poverty, education. A lot of our children now, I'm in a lot of the high schools around, not just in Chattanooga, but around the country. When I started this working with President Bush in the administration, I saw a lot of children, parents who I was working with in a reentry program that we started in Memphis. And we got national recognition from President George W. Bush. And in that program, I began to see parents, children who could not read. If you cannot read, you cannot work. Okay. And when you catch a felony and you got that scarlet letter, on the box. Have you ever been charged, convicted as a felon? And once you mark that box, pretty much everything goes downhill. On the downside of that generation, we're dealing with their children, and the children are being charged as adults. In America right now, over 33 states charge children as adults. And that's one of the things that we really got to key in on and focused on before I get too deep into my guts of things here on this presentation is about the 8 components that the Wake Up Youth Foundation recommends for any city.
Wow, you're digging in deep into where we're all there. We know we're aware of that our city has there are places that the poverty is so thick and the families are so in such disintegration that it's just you don't know what to do. You scratch your head and you say, gosh, what a mess. But you feel for them. You want better for the children, for the families, for the dads, for the moms. You want them to come together. You want families to be whole. You want the communities to be healthy. You want people to have good jobs. You want them to be good citizens. You want them to contribute to the civic life and the religious life of the community. And
Mr. Doug, I didn't hear you. You just blanked out on me. I just missed about 30 seconds of everything.
It's catching it. We're doing fine.
Okay.
Anyway, so talk to me now, TJ. And we're talking to TJ Johnson, who's the founder and the leader of the Wake Up Youth Foundation that has offices both in Memphis and Chattanooga. It's been here since 2012 in Chattanooga. Talk to us now about the solutions that you see that you've come up with to solve this gang violence problem.
Well, solutions number one, and I really need the listening audience to really comprehend. These are about the most important 8 points that you will probably ever hear in your life when it comes to reducing violence. Number one, prevention. Number one is prevention. And the lack of prevention is our problem. Even in government, for the last decade, we've actually, a little bit more than a decade, we've removed prevention. So prevention in the schools, prevention in the churches, preventions in community functions, we've removed prevention. Prevention is the key. When I can go into the schools as a speaker and talk to the children about what it means to be charged as an adult, what it means to obey the law, talk about the law and you, talk about bullying, talk about gangs, all of that was removed. Number two, intervention. The first one is prevention. The second one is intervention. Intervention is where I go into, and the Wake Up Youth Foundation go into like juvenile courts, in juvenile facilities, and talk to the kids who have already been touched, if you will, by the system. Talk to them on how to become a productive citizen when they re-enter society. Prevention, intervention. Number three, law enforcement. Number three is law enforcement. Law enforcement is what you're seeing now on CNN, MSNBC, all over the country about the police shootings. Law enforcement is what I just got off another 30-minute interview in Wilmington, Delaware, talking about the importance of community policing. We've got to bridge this gap with the community and the police, with the police and the community. SROs in Chattanooga, you got 79 schools in Hamilton County. And I think the last time I did the count, you probably got 9 or 10 SROs. So we have to do better at training law enforcement on how to deal with children. Not taking a police officer, but special training. And that's what we do. I have a retired group of lieutenant and lieutenant colonels that travel with me when I do this to train people in other cities on how to have a productive community policing program. Number four, faith-based organizations. You got to have the faith-based organizations on board. Churches in the inner city, Me and attorney Jim Henry talks about this all the time. The churches in the urban communities, on Lookout Mountain, Signal Mountain, all over the place, they have to be trained. Youth ministries have to be trained. What happens if a gang funeral takes place at your church with a member you haven't seen in 15 years? All of this needs to be trained on how to deal with the public. So you got prevention, intervention, faith-based community, and then you got community awareness. What we're doing now is what I consider a community awareness event. You have to train the community, the people in Avondale, Brainerd, Eastdale, East Chattanooga, at Alton Park. We need to have more community trainings. The local business owners need to know what's going on. If there are gangs around, which there are, you need to know what gang is in your community, how to deal with them, and that type of thing. So you got prevention, intervention, law enforcement, faith-based, community awareness, now mental health awareness. Right now, we're dealing with another epidemic that is very, very on the rise, high on the rise right now. I'm getting ready to do something with the University of Tennessee at Knoxville on mental health May 12th, because a lot of what we call CIT, crisis intervention, if there's a shooting in Chattanooga, and we know that this person has a history of mental health issues, then we need a CIT team on the spot. We need a therapist, we need a psychologist or a psychiatrist. We don't just need, just police to show up, because a lot of time it goes a different way. And so we have to be more open about mental health. I deal with a lot of that in the schools. A lot of our children have been diagnosed ADHD, ADD, all of these letters, all of these things that the DSM-5 talks about in the, if you will, in the psychology Bible, about these different things that our children are dealing with. So mental health is on the rise. In the Black community, we have shied away from it for years because we never wanted to see therapists and different things like that. So now it's beginning to open up a little bit. The Tennessee Department of Mental Health is doing a lot more now to make themselves available to communities. Number 7 is going to be reentry. Mayor Burks, I've worked with Troy at City Hall. Troy has a program with Mayor Burks when different guys who get out of the penitentiary or get out of jail, how to put them back on the right path. I think we need to be doing more. That was the recognition that we got. You have to show them how to get their driver's license back. The majority of these guys are behind on child support. And my thing is, you're walking dead. You have to show them and put them in programs. If they're smoking, if they're drinking, how to get to work on time, how to present themselves, how to talk and articulate the American English. Those are a lot of things that we're leaving out. That's number 7. And number 8 is economic development. Number 8 is very, very powerful, because a lot of drug dealers and gangsters that I deal with who want to make this transition, they have the wherewithal of becoming great business people if they have the right mentor. That is very important. That's very important, because now you got a person who committed crimes who's now have their own car washing business, who have their own trucks, dump trucks, and different things like that, who's opened up all type of businesses. So we have to get these people back to work. Over 600,000 annually people come back to their cities a year. So we're not going anywhere. I'm part of that, facing 35 years to life at 19, 10 years of parole, released August of 99. I had to get my whole life back. So that's the 8 points. So prevention, intervention, law enforcement, faith-based, community awareness, mental health awareness, reentry, and economic development. If we implement those 8 components, that's a strategic anti-violence youth initiative with a comprehensive plan to keep Chattanooga a city of hope. If we don't do it, we're going to be in trouble.
How do you put something like that together? That involves so many elements. It involves almost the whole community. And uh, there's not, that's more than one ministry or one organization can take.
Absolutely.
It becomes a community initiative. So it seems to me uh, you either have to have a very large table where people are agreeing to work together, or you have to have someone in with a lot of authority to call such a large table together. I mean, am I right?
Exactly. Absolutely. Well, and that's how the mayor in Memphis knew that we had a problem with getting people back to work. So what Dr. Willie Harrington did was he went to his COO, Chief Operating Officer, and asked him, at that time it was Keith McGee, and asked Keith McGee, what can we do as a city? What can we do in City Hall? And he said he had him to check out and pull out the records, pull out the mandates and whatever. And we were able to hire people at the sanitation department, public works, drive for the transit authority, those type of things. So we built a relationship with other private sectors. Say they saw us doing it from City Hall and they said, hey, this is a great idea. And they jumped on board. And when President Bush got a hold of it, he went back and asked Congress for $300 million to do the work that we were doing in Memphis. And from both sides of the aisle, they agreed, and we made history. These are the type of things you got to do. That's why it's important. A lot of the things that I've been trying to do in Chattanooga, I have to have the ear of the Hamilton Flourishing, the McCullens, City Hall, the Sheriff Department, the Police Department, faith-based organizations, all these things that I just went through. This is how you do it. And my biggest concern being in Chattanooga over 10 years is always remember, downtown is the living room of every city. We got to clean up downtown. Downtown, again, is the living room of every city. The living room must be clean. So in order to do that, we got to put people back to work. We've got to do reentry programs. We've got to reach out. And also, when I talked to you last month, I gave a lot of thought to what you was talking about with the grandfather thing. Yes, I think that if we sit down, we could actually get the wheels turning on that, because I thought about what you said and I prayed about it. I just didn't think about it, but I prayed about it. And God was just revealing to me that grandfathers like yourself, have a more vested interest in their grandchildren. And so at some point, we've got to reach back to our children through the grandparents. So I think that was a great idea. So we'll talk about that at some other time.
Yeah, but the interesting about being older is that you can reflect on a whole lifetime, and so you can see your mistakes. When you're 20 years old or 19, you don't know what's going to work and what's not going to work. I mean, in doing something risky, you don't know the consequences of it. You're just, especially young men of a certain. I mean, I've got 4 boys, and some of them took enormous risk when they were in that age group, and it just, as a father, then you look back on it, and now I've got grandchildren. I'm saying, holy moly! I mean, I care, and I think about the other grandfathers out there, and and I think they must care, even if dad's not there. They must care about their progeny, their children, their grandchildren. They can see they can see 60 years or 70 years of history and see what's going on. So that was a great idea. I hope we do something with that. TJ, tell people how they could get in touch or find out more about the Wake Up Youth Foundation and about you.
All right, well, let me get my phone number out first. The phone number is going to be 423-802-8860. Again, that's area code 423-802-8860. And the website is going to be wakeupyouthfoundation.com. And you can also email us at wakeupyouthfoundation@yahoo.com.
Okay. 423-802 8860
That's
8860. Right?
correct.
Okay. Well, we'll try to put that in this interview.
Yes.
And TJ, it's wonderful to talk to you. I'm always inspired. You're climbing a big mountain, brother. And but we appreciate you. We appreciate the 10 years you've invested in Chattanooga. Uh, I think of your work often, and I pray for you guys. And so, thanks for coming today, and thank you, the watcher, the listener, the video person right now. Thank you for being a part of our program today. Thank you very much. Bye bye.